Welcome to Analyzing Ignorance. I'm your host, Isaac Esau Gay. In this episode, we're going to talk about two black men in two different areas, two different police departments. One complied and listened to the officers. The other one didn't and didn't comply. And we all know what happened after that. Sadly, we're talking about Jacob Blake, as well as his Tampa jogger who also served our country. So if you are listening to this podcast, to my show, thank you for your service. This is from Glennicestudios Studios and also the Analyzing Ignorance podcast. Let's get right into it. Boom!
Hey, buddy. If you're not in any trouble or anything, there is a burglary that happened. You kind of fit the description. Let me just make sure that you're not him, okay? All right.
I'm a vet. I have my ID.
Okay. Can I see your ID? Yeah. You literally, they said white tank top, black shorts, and they said that you had a beard. All right. So I'm not saying it's you, but it was a black male. Again, not saying it's you, buddy. 48 to 40.
Okay, so I want to just point this out right here. As you see the clip, this police officer is very cordial, polite, and nice to the Tampa jogger, right? He's not, put your hands up, it's the police, get down, get on the ground. He's not like that. He's approaching him with dignity and respect. He said, hey, trying to get his attention, right? So I want you guys to keep that in mind. Now, even though he fits the description, specifically the clothing description, and also they said there was a black man with a beard in the area that burglarized his home. So he fits the description. But notice how the police officer is handling the situation. And I want police officers, okay? I'm not saying all of you guys don't do your job correctly, but this is important because the community wants you to see this as well and learn from this. Sometimes a lot of these people in these communities don't have a father in their lives. And the first authority figure they deal with is the police. So right away, a lot of black men, a lot of Latinos, a lot of young men in general have a defense mechanism. They don't want to listen. They don't want to comply. But luckily for this particular Tampa jogger, he actually served our country. So his mindset is different. You know what I mean? That's one of the few. So I want police officers to see this interaction with this black Tampa jogger. All right, it's very important for police officers to see this, and I want the community to know I'm holding everybody accountable, despite how you feel about the police, despite how the police feel about certain communities. We are one, and we need to fix this. We need to have open dialogue, a conversation. This is not a Republican, Democrat thing, conservative, libertarian thing. This is a community. That police officer didn't know him, wanted to find out, his ID, his information, and the Tampa jogger, the black man, gave him his ID without an issue, without a fuss. He complied. He gave him his ID so he could look him up because it was an active investigation, all right? So this particular situation is a little different, all right, on how Jacob Blake handled the situation and also the information the police officers already had on Jacob Blake. So that's why it was handled very differently, all right? Keep that in mind.
Jacob Blake in Wisconsin. Tonight, his family says he was shot 7 times and that he's now paralyzed from the waist down. The country has now seen that video of the black father shot by an officer, his 3 young sons in the back seat. It was his family revealing the news that he's paralyzed from the waist down during an emotional news conference today. And overnight, protesters faced off against police, the family with the message for those protesters. And tonight, the governor of Wisconsin has now declared a state of emergency. Here's ABC's Alex Perez from the scene again tonight.
Tonight, anger boiling over in Kenosha, Wisconsin over the police shooting of Jacob Blake. Protesters ignoring a curfew last night with outrage in the streets. Storming businesses, swinging baseball bats, setting buildings on fire and igniting trucks and cars. Police responding with tear gas and pepper spray. The National Guard trying to enforce order, tensions reaching a fever pitch.
I tell you, this agency is very, very amazing, and there's serious consequences for racial discrimination here, okay? I promise you that. Our takes very seriously. We are not discriminating. You literally matched the description. We did a show up.
What's your name, man? Joseph. Joseph? Hey, man, listen, Jake. Just want to say thank you for keeping a cool, good demeanor. We just got the picture finally from the witness, and it's, I get why they went out with you for sure. Clearly not you, but the clothing description, everything matched. So obviously these guys didn't have that to go with. They just had a description and he matched it. It's pretty good. But once we finally got the picture from the video surveillance and stuff, it was like, nah, that's fine. That's why I told him, get him out of here.
That was just sent out by email. It doesn't matter.
I appreciate you being clear and understanding that, man. I get it. It's not cool. It's not convenient. Yeah, I know things are a little.
It was wearing tennis shoes, black army shorts, and a white hat in high school.
I know everybody's a little on edge right now, so I appreciate you being cool. And I just want to say thank you. Because not everybody is that understanding and respectful. So. Alright.
Cool.
Hey, thank y'all for staying with me. And thank you for Officer Estrada here, who told me from the get-go, hey, I'm not going to let anything happen to you. So definitely appreciate it.
So for those who don't remember what happened to Jacob Blake, we're going to talk about it. In July, a warrant was issued for Mr. Blake's arrest on charges of third-degree sexual assault, criminal trespass, and disorderly conduct. So the police officers already knew what was happening. They knew his rap sheet. They knew what was going on. Keep that in mind. On August 23rd, the woman who had filed the complaint that led to those charges called 911 to report that Mr. Blake was at her home, according to interviews and records. Remember that. State officials have said that police officers responded to what they described as a domestic complaint and tried to arrest Mr. Blake. Before the police shot Mr. Blake, officers twice tried to use a taser on him. They try to use a taser now and de-escalate the situation before he got shot. State officials said. They also said that Mr. Blake had admitted that he had a knife. He admits that he had a knife, which was later found on the driver's side floorboard of Mr. Blake's car. So when he got up off the ground, you'll see it in the video, he was headed to the driver's seat. Now, they said his kids was in the back seat. Why was he heading to his driver's seat? Why? What do the police officers gonna think? This guy's not complying. We have him down. We're tasing him. He's not listening. He's not listening. What is he going in his car for? It's me or you. Think about it from a human standpoint. Forget that that's a black man or that's a white man. He's a criminal. He's a authoritarian, right? He has the authority. Forget about that. If somebody's not complying and they're going to get something, what happens if it was a different situation and the police got shot and the police died? There wouldn't be marches. There wouldn't be protests. You know what I'm saying? So I want people to really think about that. Logically, not emotionally. Forget black and white. That's the media trying to get us apart and argue and fight and protest. And shame on the Kenosha media and a lot of the police department for not putting out a lot of the full videos. A lot of these police departments don't put out the full videos. So as Americans and as watchers and the audience members, the community, we can see the full story. They leave a lot of stuff out. They put out one clip and you don't know what's going on. They spin the narrative and then they protest and burning their own community down. And the media knows that because it's been happening. So shame on the media, because you're the cause of this, of those riots.
Video emerging showing a different angle just moments before Blake was riddled with bullets. He appears to be struggling on the ground with police before getting up and walking to open his car door when one of the officers opens fire, his 3 children inside watching.
All my grandson asked repeatedly is, why did the police shoot my daddy in the back?
Tonight, Blake is in the hospital. His attorney says he's paralyzed from the waist down and it will take a miracle for him to walk again.
We all know Jacob Blake's name, but we don't know the Tampa jogger's name, all right? The video you can look up is on YouTube. It got like 3 million views. I find that ironic, right? The police officer, we don't know his name. He said, if you look at the full clip, I'll put it in my description. He said, I'm going to make sure nothing happens to you. He repeated again during the active investigation to the black jogger. Nothing's going to happen to you. Our agency takes racial discrimination very seriously. I mean, pleading with the guy. Like, everything's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. So notice, we don't see that everywhere, but we know who Jacob Blake is. And I want to say this also. Despite how you feel about Jacob Blake, if he complied or didn't comply after I read this message and give my comments, it's just sad. It's a tragedy. You know, he has kids, he's paralyzed, and as a man, I mean, he can't do too much. And I just want to shout out to Jacob Blake and his family. They're dealing with that right now. Right or wrong on how you feel, it's truly a tragedy. It's a tragedy, and I'm saddened by it. So I don't want any more young black men to not comply and not listen to the police officers. Stay the course, get your education, get out the hood if you can, and do what you need to do. Take care of your business, all right? It's serious out here. This is a message for young black men, young Latinos, young men in general. Comply with the police officers. Live to see another day. Deal with it later. Don't fight at that moment. Okay? Don't do it. And this is a message to police officers. Some of these young men, black, white, Hispanic, doesn't matter. They don't have authority figures besides their mother or their grandmother, right? They don't have that male figure, that male leader that they can look up to. So sometimes their first conflict, right, when it comes to discipline, is the police, is you. Be mindful of that. Try to talk to them like the other police officer, if you can. Because some of these kids are bad. Trust me, I know. I grew up in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. Some of these kids had guns growing up, 13, 14 years old. I understand how they disrespect the police. I've seen it. But if there's a situation where you could talk to them and reach them so they don't disrespect you, right? There's a way to talk, a way to handle certain things. So we don't see young black men, black Latinos shot, young men in general shot, all right? Now, the police brutality statistics says otherwise. There's actually more white men and more Latinos being shot and dealing with a lot of stuff with the police. Look it up. These are factual. So even though we see that there's more blacks being shown in the media dealing with police brutality, the statistics says otherwise, because I looked it up. I did my own research. We all know that the media gets under our skin as black people to make us riot. They said they are master. You saw that. They put out a clip, made us look like the victim when Jacob Blake was actually wrong. Made us look like the victim, and what happens? We riot, we destroy our communities. They're like, oh, look at those animals. We know how to push their buttons. Black men, please, get the whole story before you riot. Get the whole story before you make judgment. Do not listen to what other people say. Come up with your own conclusion. Don't even listen to me. I don't want to see another brother, another sister dealing with that, burning up their communities, getting shot. Come up with your own conclusion. This is why I created this show. I'm analyzing the ignorance in our society. Okay? Please, listen. The media, these politicians are rich. They don't care about you. Actually, they're replacing you with the immigrants that's coming in our country. You got to do it the right way. My father's an immigrant, right? He did it the right way. They trying to replace you with immigrants. Because if they replace you with immigrants, they know that the black party, they're losing their base. A lot of blacks are going to the conservative party. They're starting to listen and realize that That is bullcrap. What the media and a lot of these politicians are preaching. They're starting to wake up, so they need more slaves. And it's not us anymore. But black men out there, please, know your rights, be smart, think logical, get your emotions out of your mind. Live to see another day. I'm Isaac So Gay. This is Analyzing Ignorance. I'm out. Peace.